As a person with a very deep voice, I'm hired all the time for advertising campaigns. But a deep voice doesn't sell B2B, and advertising on the wrong platform doesn't sell B2B either. That's why if you're a B2B marketer, you should use LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn has the targeting capabilities to help you reach the world's largest professional audience. That's right, over 70 million decision makers all in one place. All the big wigs, then medium wigs, also small wigs who are on the path to becoming big wigs. Okay, that's enough about wigs. LinkedIn ads allows you to focus on getting your B2B message to the right people. So, does that mean you should use ads on LinkedIn instead of hiring me, the man with the deepest voice in the world? Yes. Yes, it does. Get started today and see why LinkedIn is the place to be to be. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply.
Entrepreneurs Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. So the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneurs Enigma. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast, episode 213. The reason I mentioned the issue number, I can't speak today. The episode number is because Brendan was my fourth guest originally on Entrepreneurs Enigma way back when, and now he's 213. So this is awesome, and a lot has changed. I mean, he's done a lot. Before the podcast, he says he does one new project a year. The thing is, he might do one project a year, but he doesn't get rid of another project, though.
Correct.
He just adds on one a year. And it's just like, this guy has more projects than I do. And people who know me know that I always have something up my sleeve. Brendan is a former teacher, a recovering teacher, if you don't, haven't been following along since.
Accurate.
Yeah, recovering teacher. I mean, you did it. I'm sure you enjoyed moments. But being a teacher is one of those thankless jobs where it's like you put your all into it and it's never good enough. Either the kids criticize you, the parents criticize you, the administration criticizes you. It's tough. So, but he survived that, and then he has been in the SaaS world since then. He's been in-house and he's been out of house, I guess, entrepreneurial. He's in the side hustle. He's done the full hustle. He's done the full hustle and the side hustle for his full hustle. So Brendan, how's it going, buddy? How you doing?
I'm great, man. I'm excited to chat again. It'll be good to catch up. It's been definitely
at least a year
since the first time we did this.
That's been like 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I had to look it up, man. August 2021 was definitely definitely a very different time in my life.
It was in your life and in the world.
Absolutely.
Definitely. So fill me in. What's changed?
So I'm trying to remember exactly. So
I think you were at Active Campaign. You had a full-time hustle and 16 side hustles.
Yeah, I was at Active Campaign, but I was still doing a lot of stuff on the side, right?
Yes.
So I have this problem where I see things that I want to exist in the world, and I usually complain about them once or twice, and then I go make them. Yeah. That hasn't transcended into software or anything yet, but it usually transcends into platforms and media and community and things like that. So I went in-house in the end of 2020. We first kind of recorded and chatted in 2021. And what I'd done when I went in-house, I'd always been agency side previously. Yeah. And when I went in-house, I was like, this is hard. This is a different kind of hard than agency. Where can I find some help on this? And it did not exist. All the marketing slacks, I paid $150 a month for Pavilion. I was trying to pay every community I could get into to just find this stuff out. And it did not exist. There was nothing that existed because marketing communities mostly suck, especially the ones you pay for. People make it sound like they're better if you pay for them, but they're not. It's it's actually worse. I know this sounds crazy. People are like, well, they're more curated. People are paying to be here. It's not so spammy. It's actually the opposite. People feel entitled. Like, I'm paying for this. I deserve to spam, to do a link dump every week. Of like, listen to my podcast. Here's me on LinkedIn, or just like, and I hate that. And I was just like, this is just a bunch of marketers promoting themselves to other marketers. Where is the place that you go to figure out how to navigate this like faded pirate treasure map that is, corporate bureaucracy?
Oh, and God, it's something. Yeah.
And I realized pretty quick that I wasn't great at that. I really struggle with, let's have 30 meetings to have 30 more meetings about maybe launching a page 2 years from now. Like that, just how slow that moves.
Bureaucracy is tough. Yeah, there's a reason why with my agency we don't touch enterprise for that reason, because it's just too much bureaucracy, too much like how many people do I have to handhold to get something done? It's just not worth it.
I had a big company tell me one time they couldn't hire me because I had less than 10 employees.
What?
Which is just like one of the most insane. Like, imagine why that rule was created for them internally. Like, what happened in your company where you're like, we only work with contractors that have more than 10 employees? Like, I did stuff like that, like I agree. The same. It's like big companies and small companies. There's a reason I say on the Growth Sprints website that I am perfectly a fit to help companies scale from 10 to 100 million in revenue. Mm-hmm. What that really means between me and you and everybody listening and watching is, A, can you get the work done? Do you have enough resources to actually do the thing? And then second, are you going to be awful to work with? Because really small software companies, in my experience, my red flag is like if I get on and I'm talking to a founder and they're like really excited, like I kind of know it's going to go bad because they don't have anybody in marketing and they think that I'm going to come in and work magic, and that they don't really understand marketing either. So I'm going to make recommendations, whatever. They're going to be that's the thing I've heard only from like the solo founders I've worked with.
Yeah, solo founders are tough.
This is kind of underwhelming. And I'm like, I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to make you money. Like,
it's a little different.
Come up with a bunch of wacky stuff that's like, wow, Brendan's so cool and smart. Like, I can do that.
Yeah.
But most of it won't work. But like, what am I here to do? I mean? It like misaligns incentives. Same thing again on the big company side, right? If I got to have 40 people on the call to present
that sounds awful.
Content strategy, like we got a problem. So,
it's a sweet spot. It's a sweet spot. Like bigger, small, more mid-sized, but not too big. Yeah.
Yeah. Not in that. I think the reason that's been going well was, like I had kind of said, I think it was early. We're coming up in April. I had to put it on the calendar because honestly, I forgot. Like when I quit my job, you would have thought it would have been like a bigger deal, but like I didn't. It's the same as when I went from teaching to working at an agency. I literally, the school year ended on a Friday, and Monday I was in the office.
You didn't waste any time. Yeah,
and it's the same thing with doing my own thing full time. The next week started, and I just had less meetings than I had before.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
And it wasn't like any big deal because everything had already been running. There's this wonderful book by Sean McCabe called Overlap.
Yeah.
And he talks about like overlapping your thing you're doing now with your next thing, and you just keep like stacking, but they always should overlap. And I was like, that's the awesome. Best analogy, We're
going to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show.
Did you know the world's largest business show is expanding to Miami March 6th and 7th at the Miami Beach Convention Center? The Business Show is helping small businesses start, grow, and develop. Learn all the tips, tricks, and advice you need. It's a free pass to a wealth of information you can't find anywhere else. And yes, you heard that right, free tickets. Just go to bit.ly/MPNB2B. That's bit.ly/B2B. Your free ticket also gets you into Going Global Live, Working From Home Live, Retrain Expo, the Sustainability Show, and the Future Working Show. Each helps to tackle the growing demands of an evolving business world. Don't miss out. Register now at bit.ly/MPNB2B. The Business Show, Miami, March 6th and 7th. See you there.
I love that. Yeah, it's so true because, having a gap in stuff, I mean, it doesn't always look good on your resume, but not just that. Having a gap, you get stale. Even if it's a week, it's like sometimes you need a week. Maybe let's be honest. Sometimes you need to decompress. But taking more than a week to get into your next gig it's tough. You have to kind of, at that point, you're almost in vacation mode at that moment. Because isn't there's I forget what book or somewhere that said that like the first week on vacation, you're just decompressing. You're not in vacation mode till you're in the second week. Like you have to take 2 week vacations just to get relaxed. And so it's wild, man. So you have a newsletter which everyone should sign up called Growing Up. I love it. I just signed up today. I didn't even know you had it. So I was like, oh, sign up for this. Absolutely. You are the founder community lead for All In, which is allinhouse.co, which is the community you were talking about, right? It's the one where it's like in-house, helping people actually get what they need from a community.
Yeah, and it's free. I keep it small on purpose. Yeah, and it's just for in-house software marketers.
Very brilliant. It's exactly what's needed.
Yep.
That's brilliant. And then, of course, you have Growth Sprints, which is kind of helping. It was what we were talking about, helping SaaS companies go from 10 million to 100 million ARR. That's a hard to say one. So and you have a framework and all that stuff. So, I mean, you've done this, and you kind of tell you're still a teacher. Like everyone says, journalism never left me. Teaching, I don't think ever left you.
100%. I think
so
you can
have still ROI on your education.
I just want to share everything I know. Like I don't. Yeah. I made a post on LinkedIn over the weekend that got a lot of attention because it was me airing out some frustration with people who don't tell you the whole truth. People who will say, "Oh, I made $1 million last year," or "I made $700,000 in the last 6 months by my course." It's always like, just typical
pitching,
online marketing, right? Like I'm gonna make you feel less than. I'm gonna make a hole in you so you feel like you can fill it with my course or my coaching or whatever.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I know all those guys that post that stuff, and they never explain to you. I know behind the scenes of a bunch of their businesses, and they never tell you the whole thing.
They're like a 10-year overnight success.
Or just like, there's a guy who's always talking about how he makes $1 million a year as a one-person design agency. And he sells a course on how to do that, obviously. Funny enough, the course has also sold $1 million. Weird. Now it's because, but what he doesn't tell you is he's been hospitalized twice for stress. Like he still hasn't figured out how to not almost die from doing the thing that he's selling you, right?
Yeah, or the guy who's like, operation is insane.
Yeah, or like the $4 million solopreneur who's going to teach you how to be a solopreneur, but his main revenue stream is teaching you how to write tweets and LinkedIn posts, and that's a different. But what he doesn't, it is what it is, and his stuff is good. I bought it, but what he doesn't tell you is that the reason his stuff gets a lot of reach is because of all the back channel networking he does, where he hooks up with 30 other creators, and they all become friends. They have that little
share, the share circle.
Or it's I'm on LinkedIn. I'm big on LinkedIn. I want to grow on Twitter. So what he did was he found a bunch of people who are big on Twitter that weren't on LinkedIn, and he's like, let's work together.
Yeah, how much ROI happens from that, and that's just why I'm.
But that doesn't sell in a course, right? Like, I would actually pay more. I'd pay $10,000 for that course if you were like, hey, here's how to build like strategic partnerships.
Yeah,
absolutely. But they don't. It doesn't. The problem is it doesn't sell as clean as like, let me teach you how to tweet, right? So stuff like that. I just want people to teach the whole thing, like teach the levers and share the levers that actually work.
But not everyone's an educator, dude. That's the thing. Not everyone's an educator and has a mindset of education. They're business people. I'm not saying you're not a business person, but they don't have a background in education where you tell the whole story. And then if people want to know more, they buy your course because they already have actual content that they can just go run with. Great. But people buy from people they know, like, and trust too.
Absolutely.
And that's a big thing I think that is missing on LinkedIn. Is like, A, we're just doing, we're posting for the sake of posting for the algorithm. And B, we're not telling the whole story, which is very frustrating. And it makes everyone feel like, well, why am I not doing that? Well, and that goes back to the whole thing of the 10-year overnight success. A lot of these people say, like, I'm making $1 million this year. How long have you been in your business for? Or how long have you been doing this for? In general, you may have changed your name of your company a bunch of times. Oh, it's been 10 years. Oh, that makes more sense because first year everyone's scrambling. I mean, you might hit that one big ticket item that might get you 200 grand. Great, mazel tov. Great, good for you. But like,
Yeah.
can you
Or you have
replicate
people that like
Yeah.
they don't explain. They're like, oh, here's how I made 700 grand as a consultant, and you're like, 500 of that came from a contract
Yeah,
with a guy
one
that you've known for 15 years and your kids go to school together. Or like they're not explaining like how they get like what was the act, because you can't sell that. And anytime somebody's selling, if they're like, I'm making an insane amount of money doing this, here it is for you too.
It's never that replicable.
Especially if it's a service
Mm-hmm.
where you're now creating competitors, that's a question mark for me. Or it's just also a lame flex. Like all it does is make people feel bad. Nobody reads how much money you make and is like, wow, I feel better now that I've read that. Like it really does just make people feel bad because the majority, if you're flexing how much money you make,
Mm-hmm.
the majority of people are making less. And dude, I went through that for so long when I was a teacher and I was making 45 grand a year. And it felt like everybody was winning faster than me and making more than me. And it was so hard to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
I constantly ask myself, like, when I'm creating,
same thing. Yeah.
Any content, anything I'm doing, does this? This sounds really wild, but like I really do believe like our purpose as humans, right, is to reduce like life is suffering, and if life is suffering, my job is to reduce the suffering of everybody else as much as possible, right? To be as of service. And that's very existential. But the way that looks in marketing is
you
like
also have Cicero behind you, so it kind of makes sense. Or Aristotle.
It's the same, dude.
Well, he's actually an old dude with a good beard and good hair. So there you go.
He's bigger than like I'm 6'1" and like 260. I'm a big dude, and like he's bigger than me. I didn't know the statue was that big. Like if I scoot back, you're like,
oh my god, he's huge.
He's way bigger.
Oh my god.
So like,
for those who are not watching the video on YouTube, go look at YouTube just for that one clip. That's a big statue.
We'll make a special clip of it. We'll make it a short.
Absolutely.
But my point is like that sort of thing. Like so much of how I go to market is like, what can I make that answers the questions nobody's answering right now? Like the Growing Up newsletter. I work with so many CMOs and VPs of marketing, and I'm like, there's nobody out there like there's all these like, interview podcasts with CMOs and things like that.
Yeah.
And I love that. And they usually talk about career path, which is important, but nobody talks about like the stuff that actually helps a CMO be successful, right? Mm-hmm. Like how do you
work the same industry where you last 18 months as CMO and it's the turnover and CMOs are crazy.
Yes. And a lot of that is like, how do you hire? How do you organize your meetings? How do you structure your teams? Mm-hmm. How do you, stay creative, but also keep people accountable? How do you think about, making bets in your marketing? Mm-hmm. Like I wanted to pull that out of people that I admired. And it's like, that has grown a lot. Mm-hmm. And people are like, and it's not like a general, generic resonance, right? Like, I think I have 27,000 people on my email list, but I'm pretty sure close to 10,000 people have unsubscribed.
Yeah.
Right? Because they thought they were going to get like tips and hacks and SEO stuff. And I'm like, no. Like, here's how to actually have a successful career. And they're like, yeah, that sounds hard.
Well, and then fine. You don't want them on your list. And that's the best way to prune your list. And that's a whole nother episode. How to prune your list. Get rid of 10,000 people where it's not painful. So
I do that all the time. I look at the people who haven't opened emails in the last couple months and just unsubscribe them.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a cost.
It's a cost. And also the chance for your unsubscribes and your spam links and all that stuff for people putting in spam. It's better to get rid of them before they do anything. It's just like, get rid of them. So
yeah. And like, what's the incentive here? This is again, we get back into like, what are we actually doing? It would look way better if I posted on LinkedIn, I built my email list to 50,000 people and 100,000 people read my emails. Like that looks more impressive.
How many unsubscribed?
Yeah. Or just like it's 100,000 people, but it's a 12% open rate. Oh. Right. Like
that's not a bad open rate, actually, come to think of it. That's not a bad open rate. 12%. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I'd rather keep it smaller and have, 67% of people read at least one email a month, which is where I'm at right now. Like, I love that.
Awesome. Mine recently, the last 3 came out and they were like 80% open rate. And I was like, oh my God. I mean, I'm writing to write, and if they don't read it, fine, whatever. But I'm like, my open rates are insane. And people are like, how do you do it? I'm like, I just write good content. And people want to read it. And then those who don't want to read, unsubscribe. Good.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple. So, Brendan, where is the best watering hole for you right now? Because you're all over the place.
I mean, it's definitely LinkedIn. That's where I share something cool every single day.
You do. It's fantastic.
You already mentioned the newsletter. It's kind of a mix between here's my best advice, here's the best stuff, like from a journalism standpoint, like doing the exploring and the interviewing and the researching of how to do your job as a marketing executive. And then also a bit of like news and things like that. Like here's some stuff you might not be aware of to stay current. I think that is also super important as a marketing leader. But yeah, you can also, here's the other thing. You can also Google me. I'll pretend it's because I'm good at SEO, but if you Google Brendan Hufford and you just sound it out as best you can, you're not like Seth Goldstein.
You're not like Seth Goldstein, where it's like the Smith of Jews. Like, like literally, everyone's last name is Goldstein, and add Seth in front of it. There's a famous Seth who is an angel investor in SoCal, or not in SoCal, in San Francisco. We used to always get each other's tweets back when I was on Twitter. He was at Seth and I was at Seth Goldstein, so I would forward him tweets if people were tweeting to me when they should have been tweeting to Seth, and I'm like, oh my God.
Funny.
I was friendly because of that. So
who is it? I always use the example Justin Jackson, who's a guy that I love. No chance. Like there has to be so many Justin Jacksons in the world.
You just write Transistor after that.
Yeah. But I mean, I think he's like, there's like 6 professional athletes named Justin Jackson. Like
I'm on the top for Seth M. Goldstein because I use it as a journalist. But I don't like to use my middle initial, and I'm really upset that like I went second page for Seth Goldstein. But I'm like, hey, now with the continuous scroll, it's not that bad.
Well, I'm better at SEO than Seth, so I'm on page 1 and number 1 for Brendan Hufford.
Oh God, love it, buddy. All right, Brendan, this has been so much fun. Let's make sure it's not another 2 years before we get you back on, or at least us chatting in general, because this is always a blast, buddy.
Yeah, man, I love it.
Awesome. And guess what? We'll see everyone next time. That was a great show. If you're enjoying Entrepreneur's Enigma, please review us in the podcast directory of your choice. Every review helps other podcast listeners find our show. If you're looking for other podcasts in the marketing space, look no further than the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net. Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Steve Turney hosts a great podcast geared toward mental health marketers called The Boost. Steve, tell listeners what you cover on the show.
The Boost is our podcast, and the tagline is conversations with people promoting mental health. And that's what it is. So it's marketers, company executives, therapists, and mental health advocates talking about what they're doing to move this industry and this important thing called mental health forward.
Amazing. And where can people subscribe?
I'm big on LinkedIn, so you can find us there, just /Steve Turney, or you can find the show at marketingpodcasts.net, or search for The Boost wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard him. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.